I want to save the marriage, but Russ is not the man I married.
Paola had already consulted a divorce lawyer, and Russ had no idea. But what pushed their 12-year marriage this close to collapse? Was money the real trigger? Did years of career sacrifices finally become resentment? Or was one deeper reason hiding behind every argument? Russ entered therapy, believing their marriage still had a chance. Paola entered knowing what divorce might look like. And when the missing piece started surfacing, their entire history suddenly felt different. So what was Paola still hiding from Russ? Paola had already spoken with a divorce attorney, and Russ had no idea. He arrived at the retreat hoping therapy might save their marriage, while she arrived with legal options ready. Was Paola protecting herself by learning what separation would involve? Or had she emotionally begun leaving before Russ understood how serious the crisis had become? One points to caution. The other points to a marriage where honesty had already become selective. Russ learned only after Paola sought advice. And one hidden question still remained unanswered. But the lawyer was only the first shock. The reason behind the visit ran much deeper. Nearly 12 years of marriage stood behind this moment. Years of moves, career changes, parenthood, and repeated resets. For roughly 2 years, Russ and Paola had lived in emotional uncertainty. They remained married and raised their son together. Yet Paola described a relationship where the connection had weakened and the future no longer felt secure. Then came Las Vegas. Paola moved there for more wrestling opportunities, and the family ended up living in an RV. For Paola, the arrangement signaled instability. She had become the stronger financial provider, and paying family expenses revived old resentment. Money was the visible argument, but neither spouse was only fighting about money. Paola saw a husband who no longer matched the driven man she remembered marrying. Russ saw years of sacrifice being erased from the record. He had supported her ambitions, changed jobs, moved across states, and adjusted his plans around their family. Now, when he needed time to regain his footing, he felt judged instead of valued. Paola was not wrong for wanting financial security. Carrying more of the bills creates pressure, especially when the arrangement lasts longer than expected. But Russ was not wrong for wanting recognition. Support given years earlier does not become meaningless because the roles later reverse. So, why keep the attorney meeting secret? Paola might have feared Russ would dismiss the seriousness of her frustration. She might have wanted information before starting another emotional fight. Yet secrecy carries its own message. When one spouse researches divorce while the other still talks about repair, both people are no longer working from the same plan. Russ thought they were choosing how to save the marriage. Paola was also learning how an exit worked. And still, neither walked away. Their son mattered. Their long history mattered. Love, habit, fear, hope, and shared responsibility all seemed tangled together. Leaving meant ending more than a romance. Staying meant facing pain neither had managed to settle. The attorney confession hit so hard for this reason. The confession was no sudden threat thrown during an argument. Instead, Paola's doubts had already traveled much farther in private. Russ now had to ask whether therapy was a genuine final chance or a soft landing before goodbye. But Paola's secret legal consultation did not create the fracture. It exposed one already years old. To understand why divorce entered the conversation, the story has to return to the choices both of them made long before Las Vegas, the RV, and the retreat. Because their deepest fight was never about one credit card, one job, or one attorney. The issue centered on who sacrificed more, who felt forgotten, and who stopped believing the other person still saw them. The fracture did not begin in Las Vegas. The story started with movement. Russ met Paola while working in Colombia. She left Colombia to join him in Oklahoma. Both entered marriage with different visions. Russ valued stability and a dependable career. Paola wanted freedom, opportunity, and her own identity. Conflict grew over who surrendered more from the very beginning. They loved each other, but they never agreed on what their shared future should cost. Oklahoma gave Russ structure. Paola felt restricted there. Miami offered her community and modeling opportunities, but moving placed pressure on Russ's career. When he followed Paola, he chose the marriage while leaving professional stability behind. Russ later remembered those choices as proof of loyalty. He changed jobs, locations, and plans to support Paola's ambitions. Paola carried a different record. She had left Colombia, adapted to a new country, faced judgment, and tried to build work without Russ's professional foundation. The problem was not missing sacrifice. The problem was their private accounting system. Their marriage slowly became a scoreboard. Russ remembered the stable career he surrendered. Paola remembered the homeland and independence she surrendered. Russ saw relocation as loyalty. Paola saw adaptation as survival. Both memories held truth, yet each obscured the other's effort. Then Axel arrived on January 1st, 2019. Parenthood gave them a shared center, yet a child does not erase resentment. Work, housing, and money carried greater weight. Axel gave them another reason to stay, while unresolved pain became harder to escape. Over time, their provider roles changed. Paola began earning more while Russ moved through career changes and struggled to recover his earlier stability. Her frustration was practical. She did not want the main financial burden resting on her. Every payment reminded her of the gap between the husband she remembered and the partner she now saw. Russ experienced the same period differently. Her criticism seemed to erase the years when he provided and adjusted his life around her goals. He felt recast as a failure inside a marriage where he believed he had once supplied the foundation. Money became evidence for Paola. History became evidence for Russ. Neither receipt ended the argument. By 2021, their strain had become public. Their representative confirmed they remained together, took a temporary break, planned therapy, and worked on their relationship. The statement offered hope, but the words revealed distance too. Couples do not announce a break when home feels secure. They stayed married and continued raising Axel. Yet staying never settled their emotional accounting. Who compromised more? Who carried the family longer? Who deserved patience and how much? A fair reading avoids turning either spouse into the sole problem. Russ lost direction after repeated career changes. Paola lost patience while waiting for him to rebuild. Both experiences fit the same timeline, even when they treated those experiences like competing verdicts. And this was the moment frustration quietly became preparation. The divorce attorney did not appear from nowhere. Paola's consultation followed years of comparing sacrifices and defending separate versions of the marriage. Russ still viewed their relationship as damaged but reparable. Paola had reached a point where learning about an exit felt necessary. She had not filed a court case. Still, seeking legal answers alone crossed an emotional line. Russ believed therapy remained their shared plan. Paola privately held another option. The silent line now separated them. On one side stood history, therapy, and hope. On the other stood legal information Russ never knew Paola had requested. And before he could process what the secret meant, their next conflict would reveal why promises no longer felt convincing. Money finally gave their old resentment a number. On the last resort, Paola said paying with her own credit card triggered resentment. The card represented a provider role she never expected to carry. Each payment reminded her of the stability she believed Russ once represented. Now she felt responsible for supporting the family while pursuing work, raising Axel, and living in an RV. Russ heard the complaint differently. To him, one credit card erased years when his income supported them. The argument sounded current, but both spouses were fighting with evidence collected years earlier. Paola's receipt was the present. She paid more and wanted urgency. Russ's receipt was the past. He once held a strong career, moved for her ambitions, and accepted disruptions. He wanted those sacrifices to count. No bank statement ever settled this fight. Paola wanted proof Russ was rebuilding. Russ wanted proof Paola remembered who he had been. Each waited for validation before offering any, leaving both emotionally unpaid. When gratitude becomes conditional, even a bill reopens a decade of pain. Provider role changes often expose wounds couples avoid while money feels stable. Income touches confidence, power, safety, and attraction. When one partner carries more, practical frustration becomes personal. When the other loses earning power, criticism sounds like rejection of their value. Paola wanted movement instead of promises. Russ did not want one difficult period to define his character. Their marriage needed a plan, but their conversations became trials where each spouse served as attorney and witness. The more they argued about responsibility, the less responsibility either accepted for changing the pattern. Paola's legal consultation sharpened every exchange. Russ thought they were discussing how to repair their finances. She already knew her options if repair failed. Even without mentioning the attorney, this knowledge changed the stakes. One spouse wanted another chance. The other was deciding whether another chance still made sense. Why did neither speak plainly? Russ feared losing the family he had tried to preserve. Paola feared investing more time in promises she no longer trusted. Silence delayed an answer, yet gave resentment permission to answer for them. Then Russ planned an anniversary surprise, and their entire marriage seemed to shrink into one small box. The mood shifted at their archery date. Russ arranged an activity, marked their 12th anniversary, and brought Paola a gift. After so much conflict, the effort mattered. He was trying to create a memory outside therapy and financial arguments. For one moment, they looked like two people searching for the couple they once enjoyed being. Then Paola saw another necklace. Her reaction landed hard because she had indicated she did not want one. Russ chose a swan necklace and explained the romantic meaning of two swans forming a heart. He saw lasting love. Paola saw a problem. He had made an effort, yet missed her stated preference. Russ offered symbolism. Paola wanted evidence he had listened before choosing the symbol. Was Paola rejecting jewelry, or years of feeling unheard? Her disappointment was larger than the box. When someone repeats a preference and receives the opposite, a gift feels shaped around the giver's idea of romance instead of the receiver's needs. But the counterpoint matters. Russ did not ignore the anniversary. He planned an activity and chose a sentimental object tied to commitment. His mistake was not absence of care. He assumed familiar affection would land the same way after their marriage had changed. Intent answered one question. Impact answered another. A loving intention does not erase disappointment, and disappointment does not prove love was absent. Paola gave Russ a watch he liked. The contrast increased his embarrassment. He felt she understood him, while his gift failed to understand her. Their date now looked like another entry on the scoreboard. Russ seemed defeated because every attempt faced years of unmet expectations. Paola seemed tired because a surprise creates closeness only when the recipient feels known. Otherwise, the gesture becomes evidence of distance. The saddest part was not the necklace. Both returned to familiar positions. Russ focused on his effort. Paola focused on the missed message. Neither point was false. Neither comforted the other. The gift did not cause the tears. Deeper disappointment finally found a visible place to land. The anniversary should have reminded them why they stayed. Instead, the date raised a harsher question. Were they still loving each other, or old versions of each other? Russ reached for the woman who once welcomed familiar gestures. Paola wanted recognition from the man she felt had stopped changing beside her. The attorney consultation no longer felt isolated. The secret sat behind every disappointed look. When Russ missed a preference, Paola saw a pattern. When Paola dismissed his effort, Russ saw another. Both interpreted the present through painful history. When every new moment becomes proof of an old wound, repair begins feeling impossible. By the end of the date, their marriage appeared closer to collapse than celebration. Money exposed their struggle over responsibility. The necklace exposed their struggle over listening. The tears showed how little emotional room remained for ordinary mistakes. Yet the next turn would not come from another bill or gift. A private issue waited beneath their arguments, one neither spouse could hide behind careers or credit cards. Once Paola described what had disappeared between them, Russ faced a question far more personal than whether he had chosen the wrong necklace. The necklace exposed a listening problem. What came next exposed a much more private distance. During therapy, Paola spoke bluntly about their physical relationship. She described intimacy as routine, unsatisfying, and emotionally disconnected. Russ heard more than criticism. He heard another message underneath. The woman he loved no longer seemed to desire him. Rejection lands harder when confidence is weak. Russ had been struggling with career changes, money pressure, and the feeling that his old contributions no longer counted. The financial conflict questioned what Russ provided. The intimacy conflict questioned whether Paola still wanted him. No diagnosis belongs here. Russ's reaction makes sense without attaching a label. When work feels uncertain and home feels critical, one painful comment travels further. She had spent years feeling unheard and appeared tired of softening concerns without seeing change. Honesty and cruelty are different. A difficult truth still needs care. Paola had every right to describe her experience. Russ had every right to feel wounded by how publicly and sharply she described it. Therapy needed safety, not a winner. A truth delivered without tenderness can become another injury instead of a path toward repair. Their intimacy problem also reflected the same pattern seen with money and the necklace. Paola focused on impact. She felt disconnected, so Russ's intentions no longer satisfied her. Russ focused on effort. He believed he was trying, so her disappointment felt unfair. Physical closeness rarely survives when resentment enters every room. Career frustration affects confidence. Feeling ignored reduces warmth. Feeling rejected creates hesitation. Both wait for the other to move first, while failure confirms old beliefs. Their private distance was not separate from the marriage. It was the marriage speaking through another problem. The therapy work asked them to stop performing for old scorecards and communicate in the present. For Paola, this meant explaining needs without turning Russ into a punchline. For Russ, this meant listening without retreating into the record of everything he once sacrificed. Both required vulnerability after years of anger and defensiveness. Russ needed specific guidance rather than another general verdict. Paola needed sustained effort rather than one impressive night. A short improvement would not erase 12 years of conflict, but a real improvement could challenge the belief that nothing between them was capable of changing. Then the August 17th episode delivered the reversal few viewers expected. Something finally worked. The show presented Russ and Paola after a breakthrough night. Their energy looked lighter. Paola acknowledged a positive change, and Russ appeared relieved. After weeks of resentment and awkward exercises, direct communication appeared to help. The moment mattered because their earlier conflicts were built on failed translation. Russ gave a necklace when Paola wanted to feel heard. Paola gave criticism when Russ needed useful direction. In therapy, clearer communication finally produced a better outcome. They did not solve the entire marriage. They proved a frozen pattern was still movable. For one brief moment, progress replaced the scoreboard, and neither spouse needed to prove who suffered more. Viewers had watched them circle the same complaints, so seeing warmth return offered emotional release. Russ received evidence he was not permanently unwanted. Paola received evidence her needs were not impossible to understand. Their connection had survived. Still, one good night is evidence of possibility, not evidence of permanent repair. The RV remained. Financial pressure remained. Career questions remained. The attorney consultation remained part of their history. Better intimacy softened resentment, but it could not negotiate a budget, rebuild professional confidence, or restore trust by itself. The breakthrough opened a door, but every unresolved problem was still waiting on the other side. Then the August 24th episode placed progress beside discomfort. Russ learned information from Paola's past which he had not known. During a therapy exercise, Paola discussed having dated a woman when she was younger. The point was not the gender of the former partner. The emotional issue was Russ learning new personal history after nearly 12 years of marriage. Was Paola required to disclose every relationship from before Russ?
No.
Adults carry private histories. Yet Russ was allowed to feel surprised. Long marriages create the belief both partners already know the major chapters. One late revelation challenges that sense of familiarity. The secret did not automatically prove betrayal. It proved Russ still had parts of Paola left to learn. Timing made the disclosure heavier. The marriage had just shown movement. Russ had begun feeling wanted again. Then he received information capable of raising fresh questions about what Paola had shared, what she had withheld, and why the subject surfaced now. The fair reading avoids manufacturing scandal. No verified evidence shows Paola betrayed Russ through this past relationship. The relationship happened before their marriage. Still, the revelation mattered emotionally because secrecy was already central to their crisis. Paola had also consulted a divorce attorney without telling him. Another late disclosure naturally connected in Russ's mind, even if the two situations were different. Progress arrived beside another secret, forcing Russ to decide whether surprise meant danger or unfinished honesty. Fans quickly divided into familiar camps. Some viewers argued Russ had sacrificed too much from the beginning. In their opinion, he gave up professional stability, followed Paola's ambitions, and received criticism when his career never fully recovered. They saw his insecurity as the result of years spent feeling diminished. Other viewers focused on Paola's current burden. In their opinion, supporting the family financially while waiting for Russ to regain stability had exhausted her patience. They saw her anger as the voice of someone who had heard plans before but needed visible action. Those are fan interpretations, not proven private motives. The audience chose sides because choosing one villain feels easier than holding two painful truths together. Russ's strongest case sits in the past. Paola's strongest case sits in the present. Russ asks for credit for what he surrendered. Paola asks for relief from what she carries now. Neither request is absurd. Trouble begins when old sacrifice becomes a permanent exemption, or present frustration erases every earlier contribution. This marriage looks trapped between two records of suffering. Russ's record says he destabilized his career for Paola. Paola's record says she became the provider and stopped trusting his follow-through. Each record contains receipts. Neither record explains how they build a future. A marriage cannot recover while both partners use pain as proof they deserve to stop trying first. The show's editing adds another layer. Important disclosures arrive late because delayed information creates suspense. Producers arrange episodes around reveals, reactions, and cliffhangers. This structure encourages viewers to ask what TLC knew and when the audience was allowed to know it. But calling the situation a cover-up goes beyond available evidence. A delayed reveal is a storytelling choice. A cover-up requires proof of deliberate concealment designed to deceive the public. No verified report shows TLC hid a divorce filing or legal battle involving Russ and Paola. Suspense explains the delay. Evidence would be needed before suspense becomes a conspiracy. The next episode title adds fuel because last call at the court sounds legal when removed from context. Yet the season takes place at a historic castle, and court language matches the show's royal theme. Episode titles have repeatedly used crowns, armor, swords, knights, and court imagery. More importantly, the published description only says Russ and Paola share a painful breakthrough. It does not mention divorce papers, attorneys, a judge, or a legal hearing. The word court creates a tempting headline, but one dramatic word does not establish a courtroom event. Russ was called toward an emotional reckoning, not confirmed to appear before a divorce judge. This distinction does not weaken the story. The verified conflict already carries enough weight. Paola secretly sought legal information. Russ entered therapy unaware. Money turned into resentment. Their anniversary ended in disappointment. Their intimate connection weakened. A breakthrough finally arrived. Then another private revelation tested the progress. Why invent a court battle when the real tension centers on whether two people still recognize each other? Legal paperwork would provide spectacle. Emotional uncertainty provides the deeper conflict. Russ wants proof the marriage still has a future. Paola wants proof the future will not repeat the past. The biggest mystery is not what TLC hid. It is what Russ and Paola hid from each other. By this point, the marriage no longer looked completely hopeless. Their breakthrough proved communication could create change. Yet hope remained fragile because new information kept arriving beside old resentment. Russ needed to decide whether learning more about Paola brought them closer or made him question how well he knew her. Paola needed to decide whether one successful moment represented genuine movement or another temporary improvement. The retreat gave them therapists, exercises, scheduled conversations, and distance from daily routines. Real life would remove most of those supports. The credit card would return. Career pressure would return. The RV would still feel small. A breakthrough inside a retreat matters only if both partners carry the new behavior home. So the marriage stood between two possible endings. In one, the private progress gave them enough hope to rebuild slowly. In the other, the improvement arrived too late to outweigh years of disappointment. Neither ending had been confirmed. No court filing settled the question. No episode title answered it. Neither spouse felt safe choosing yet. The next choice would reveal whether Paola viewed the attorney consultation as unused information or the beginning of her exit. And Russ would have to decide whether staying meant fighting for their marriage or accepting that love without trust had already become another form of waiting. After every argument and late disclosure, one fact remains. Paola took her doubts far enough to speak with a divorce attorney, and Russ reportedly did not know. People rarely research legal exits when marriage feels safe. Paola wanted information about separation. Yet information is not a filing. Consultation is not an announcement. No verified evidence shows she submitted divorce papers, appeared before a judge, or started legal proceedings against Russ. Divorce entered Paola's thinking, but no evidence places their marriage inside a courtroom. From Paola's perspective, private legal research offered control. She felt burdened by finances, unhappy in the RV, disconnected from Russ, and uncertain whether promises would become action. An attorney could explain practical consequences before emotion controlled her decision. Learning personal rights does not require a spouse's permission. Knowledge reduces fear and limits rushed choices. Viewed fairly, Paola sought clarity, not necessarily a secret attack. But private clarity carries a price when marriage is supposed to operate as a team. Russ entered the retreat believing both spouses were working toward repair. Paola's consultation showed she held another option he had never seen. Secrecy damages trust even when the hidden action is legal. Russ could ask why she shared her fears with an attorney before sharing their full seriousness with him. Paola could answer that earlier conversations had failed. Both points fit. Neither removes the distance created by separate plans. Paola felt unheard enough to research an exit. Russ remained uninformed enough to believe repair was their only plan. Why did Paola keep the consultation private? She has not publicly explained every detail, so certainty would be dishonest. Fear of conflict, dismissal, or losing control offer possible reasons. What changed her view of Russ? No single moment. Money, relocation, career uncertainty, lost intimacy, and repeated disappointment gathered over time. The man she saw no longer matched the driven provider she remembered. The attorney did not create Paola's doubt. The meeting recorded how far her doubt had traveled. Why did neither leave? 12 years cannot be reduced to their worst week. They built a family, raised Axel, survived earlier strain, and attempted therapy. Love mattered. Parenting mattered. Habit, fear, responsibility, and hope mattered too. Staying never proved the marriage was secure. Considering divorce never made departure easy. Long relationships hold conflicting feelings. Someone can feel exhausted and attached, ready to leave, and still hopeful. Russ and Paola were choosing between two painful futures, not between love and no love. Money exposed the first future. Paola feared carrying the provider role without an end date. Every credit card payment represented instability. She wanted visible evidence Russ was rebuilding. Russ saw history being erased. He remembered supporting Paola's ambitions and leaving professional stability behind. Her present frustration sounded like a verdict on his value. Neither record was false. Past support does not excuse endless inaction. Present pressure does not erase earlier loyalty. They needed to acknowledge both records, then stop charging each other for every old wound. Paola measured what she carried today. Russ measured what he surrendered yesterday. Their totals never matched. The anniversary exposed another wound. Russ arranged an archery date, remembered 12 years, and chose a swan necklace representing lasting love. Paola had indicated she did not want another necklace, So the gift felt like proof he had missed her preference again. Was she rejecting jewelry, or years of feeling unheard? Russ still deserved credit for planning the date. His mistake involved listening, not an absence of care. Paola's disappointment involved meaning, not simple ingratitude. Russ offered affection in a familiar form. Paola no longer trusted the form because she felt unseen. Paola gave Russ a watch he liked, which deepened his embarrassment. She seemed to understand his preference, while his gift missed hers. The moment returned them to the scoreboard. Intent deserves recognition. Impact requires accountability. A caring gesture can miss. A disappointed reaction can wound. Repair begins when one spouse says the effort mattered and the other admits the message missed. Russ and Paola defended their positions before comforting each other. The necklace did not break their marriage. It exposed how little room remained for ordinary mistakes. Their intimacy struggle made everything more personal. Paola's blunt comments communicated deep dissatisfaction. Russ appeared hurt and unwanted. Career frustration had weakened his confidence. Financial criticism had challenged his place. Now, he also heard doubt about whether his wife desired him. Paola had a right to discuss disconnection. Yet delivery mattered. Public bluntness risked turning useful truth into humiliation. Russ needed direction he could follow. Paola needed effort she could feel. Their private conflict repeated the public pattern. Paola described impact, while Russ defended effort. The August 17th breakthrough proved clearer communication helped. Their energy looked lighter, and a positive experience challenged the belief their connection had frozen permanently. One improvement did not repair finances, housing, careers, or secrecy. Still, Russ showed he could listen and adjust. Paola showed she could recognize change. For once, both responded to the present instead of presenting historical receipts. A breakthrough is not a cure. It is evidence of possibility. Hope finally came from changed behavior rather than another promise. Then progress met a late disclosure. On August 24th, Russ learned new information from Paola's past, including her account of dating a woman when she was younger. The old relationship did not prove wrongdoing. It occurred before their marriage, and no verified evidence links the history with betrayal. Timing created discomfort. After the attorney's secret, another unknown chapter carried more weight. Russ had to decide whether he was hearing normal personal history or discovering how much he still did not know. The revelation did not erase progress. It tested whether new honesty would strengthen or frighten them. Their central question is no longer whether love once existed. 12 years, shared moves, parenthood, repeated reconciliation, and continued effort answer that. Love existed. The harder question asks whether love still contains enough respect to survive resentment. Respect means listening before choosing a gift. Respect means honoring past sacrifice without avoiding present responsibility. Respect means discussing dissatisfaction without reducing a spouse to failure. Respect means sharing major doubts before they reach an attorney. Love kept them together. Respect would decide whether togetherness still felt safe. Fan reactions split because each side holds receipts. Some viewers believe Russ sacrificed his career and received years of criticism. Others believe Paola carried the family financially while waiting too long for stability. Those are opinions, not proven private motives. A fair reading credits Russ without granting endless exemption. It gives Paola sympathy without excusing hurtful delivery. He needed consistent action. She needed clear boundaries without contempt. No hero or single villain explains 12 years. Both feared their pain would disappear unless they defended it louder than the other person. Public evidence adds one more reversal. Recent family posts and social media activity suggest Russ and Paola remained connected after filming. Public posts do not reveal the full condition of a marriage, and they do not replace the unaired recommitment decision. Still, these signs weigh against presenting divorce as confirmed. Paola explored legal options. Russ learned about her doubts. The televised choice has not aired. Available public signs point toward continued togetherness, not open legal war. The television ending remains hidden, but the public trail does not resemble a courtroom divorce battle. Did TLC hide legal proceedings? No available evidence supports that claim. Reality television delays information because reveals create suspense. Suspense does not prove concealment. Last Call at the Court sounds legal outside context. Yet the season takes place in a castle, and earlier titles use crowns, armor, swords, and knights. The published description promises a painful breakthrough between Russ and Paola. No divorce papers, judge, or legal hearing appear in the description. The title promises an emotional reckoning, not a confirmed appearance before a divorce judge. If Russ and Paola recommit, the ceremony will not erase the lawyer visit, bills, or disappointment. Recommitment would mean testing new behavior at home. Russ would need steady professional and emotional follow-through. Paola would need clear boundaries without silent resentment. If they separate, the choice would not prove their marriage was fake. Love and history may no longer be enough for a safe future. Either path carries grief, relief, and consequences for their family. Their final choice matters less as a verdict on yesterday than as a promise about tomorrow. Daily life will provide stronger evidence than any ceremony. Who pays the next bill without turning payment into a weapon? Who listens before planning the next gesture? Who discusses fear before researching an exit? Who follows through when cameras leave? The retreat offered structure. Home will test whether progress survives routine. Russ and Paola have found warmth after conflict before. The unresolved question is whether this breakthrough changed their pattern or interrupted it. Their marriage survives only if both stop asking who owes more and start showing what each gives next. That is the final test hidden beneath drama. A marriage does not heal because one partner wins the argument. Repair begins when both people stop treating vulnerability like surrender. Russ needs recognition, but recognition must lead toward action. Paola needs security, but security cannot grow through secrecy. If either keeps demanding proof while refusing to offer reassurance, the same conflicts will return under different names. For now, no verified divorce announcement, filing, or legal court fight exists. What happened was quieter and more serious. Paola lost enough faith to seek legal information alone. Russ pursued therapy without knowing how close her thoughts had moved toward an exit. They found progress, then faced another uncomfortable revelation. Their marriage remained alive but no longer protected by assumptions. Every promise needed evidence. Every gesture needed attention. Every fear needed discussion before silence turned it into another secret. And their painful court episode will show whether the breakthrough created a beginning or merely delayed the ending.